Hello everyone, here to show you how to create a smoke trail in C++ and while using the particle system effects. As you can see, it's kind of like Grand Theft Auto. You keep firing and it creates more smoke trails. What you want to do first, you want to go to the internet, search for a smoke trail texture that looks exactly like this. Just type in smoke trail texture. Then what you do, you want to right click, create particle system. I call it smoke trail 3. Go over here, go where it says particle system, emitter, or type data. Call it new beam data. Right click, go to type data, new beam data. Set the spawn rate to 0. Set the lifetime to 0. Set the initial size to 5 or less. You don't need color over life. And what you want to do, you want to go over here and where it says beam, do source, beam target, use user set, and user set. What this allows you to do, it allows you to set it inside of Unreal Engine, inside of Microsoft Visual Studio, instead of giving it a default parameters inside of the engine instead. So there's a source target. You have to create beam data, set the spawn, like this one, spawn to 0, lifetime 0, initial size is 5, initial velocity, color over life. You can delete this, it's not necessary, but it doesn't really affect anything unless you put anything. Use kill on deactivate, kill on complete. And once you're done doing that, you can just create a smoke material. You should do this before. Sorry, you should do this before you create the particle system. You drag in a texture sample. You multiply the RGB by A. Multiply this B. You take the alpha. You drag it to the B slot. You take the RGB and drag it to the B slot. Drag this one, as you can see, to the base color. Then you take emissive and opacity. Gives it like a little glowing effect and affects its opacity so it's see-through. And this needs to be translucent because you need to be able to see through this smoke trail. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto, that you kind of like fire and you see like a smoke trail kind of coming out of the muzzle of the gun. And then and on fire, you delete all the code and you replace it with this line trace, multi-line trace by channel. Let me just name this properly. And what you're doing after all that fixing, what you were doing, you're creating a smoke trail beam component. You create a smoke trail beam component. Oh yeah, wait a second. Go up here. You create a default sub-object of uParticle system component type, and set up the attachment to the FP gun. And in .h, you're gonna need at least one class, 2 F timer handles, 1 T array, a particle system component type, bringing 1 boolean, on fire, full auto, and hide smoke. You're gonna need 4 functions, 4 void functions, fire timer and smoke trail timer, and I'll show you why you need the 2 timers in a second. And you need 2 player input components. One that says pressed, one that has released for the input, full auto and stop firing. Here's a timer. It allows you to automatically fire your gun. You're calling this function, and with a looping timer. And then after that is done, you clear the timer after you release the key. You set this boolean back to false. After you do create that smoke trail beam component as a global variable, you then create a gameplay static spawn emitter at location. You make it equal to this. You set the source point, which allows you to attach that beam emitter to your muzzle by doing some basic calculation, getting the socket location and getting the current rotation, adding them both together. There you go. And then you get the target point, which is the int trace, start trace plus the current rotation multiplied by 10,000. And then what you do, you add the smoke trail beam to the T array created as a global variable. And then what I'm doing, I am using a UE log, a smoke trail array .num. I'll show you. 1 second why. You need the trail array. You need the UE log. As you can see, the smoke position, or how many more smoke beam components gets transferred into the array. Then once you release the left trigger or the left mouse button, it resets. As you can see, it deactivates and deletes the component. So it gets rid of the memory inside the world. And how, in order to do that, in order to delete all the smoke trail beam components inside of this one array, you need to get the world timer manager, you get a smoke trail timer, and then you create a function called hide smoke. As you can see here. And I'll show you here. Look. creating a hide smoke void. Then when you do, you loop through all the indexes inside of that array. If I is less than the trail array.num, I plus plus, what .num does, that counts for all the, see how it says returns number of elements in the array. That means that you are counting all the elements inside of this array up to its maximum point. Now I'm checking to see if it is valid, if the trail array is valid. And if it is valid, you deactivate the system. You deactivate all the systems inside the array, all the duplicates inside the array, and then you destroy all the duplicates inside the array. Then you delete. Then you empty the array. It's a dynamic array. Basically, this array is a dynamic array because you're constantly adding all these smoke trail beam components into the trail array, which is a dynamic array that it's not statically declared. And what I mean by statically declared is that this array is not statically declared because you're not giving it a max capacity inside of the .h. For example, you're not making this equal to any form of value. Like you're not giving the trail array a set amount of spaces, indexes inside of the array. So as you can see, I can continue to feed numbers and beam components into the array without crashing the engine, because dynamically it gets deleted during runtime. And what I mean by runtime is a concept where during playtime, during, like if you're not doing everything during downtime. And what I mean by playtime, when you play the engine, it deletes once I release the left key. And if I is less than I plus plus, you're looping through using this integer value. You're trying to fill the indexes of the array using this integer value, and you're accounting for those beam components inside the array using this I integer value. And I could just call it index. Just to make it more readable. So you're adding these smoke trail beam components during runtime using this on fire function, using this timer and this on fire function. Then once you release the key, once you release the left click, a timer plays in 1 second, giving this timer a 1 second value, and then deleting all the beam components inside the array. Using a for loop If it is valid, check and deactivating and destroying the components. Then emptying the array during runtime. This is basically a dynamic array with vector functions. It's like a mixture of a vector and a dynamic array because these functions normally in normal C++ do not exist for dynamic arrays, but this is a dynamic array. Now I'm going back in here to show you the smoke trail, and what you're going to do, you're going to right click to reiterate. You're going to right click, go type data, go where it says new beam data, and create a source and target point using what is created after you create that beam data. Right click, go to source, create a target, make it user set. Do not make it default, make it user set, because that's what allows you to control the variables inside of this particle system. In C++. What? There's a smoke trail. Lifetime is 0. Initial size, you can make it to 5 or however you want it. You can make the initial size to 10 to 20, however, depending on your use for it, for the smoke trail. And here's a smoke trail material, drag in the texture sample, which is this, which you just type in whatever browser you're using, and you type in smoke trail array, smoke trail, JPEG or PNG, and find one that you like, and you drag it into the engine. You download that picture and you just drag it into the engine, and it creates a texture out of it. Use that texture to create this material. And you don't need this. You can delete this. You can delete the projectile. And you create the smoke trail beam component. Create a default sub-object. Smoke trail beam comp. View particle system component type. Data type. And class. Sorry. You create a particle system component class. You set up the attachment to the FP gun. Full auto, stop firing, press and release. And here you create the the timer. You stop firing once you release it. Once you release the left mouse button. The reason why I'm reiterating over all this again is so that I'm not going too fast. And if I am going too fast, I do somewhat of a review over the code. And so that then maybe you may understand better, and I'm not just glossing over certain aspects. So I'm reiterating over what I had just previously said on purpose. So I'm not doing that by accident. I'm doing that so that then I can continue to teach. And here are the variables, and then the void. Then the voids. Adding the ignored component. so that then you don't hit your own gun. That's the whole point of this. Creating a line trace multi-byte channel of ECC visibility collision channel. You can create a new channel. It doesn't have to be this. For looping through the F hit results, the memory address, and trying to find a hit. Just put it as hit. As you see, that this code keeps showing up again. This line trace multi-byte channel code keeps showing up again because it works. It keeps showing up again from different projects. So I'm not changing how to create the line trace so that then it is much more easily attainable. So you can start seeing a pattern. You start seeing a diagnosis of a pattern. So I'm not constantly changing the line trace multi-byte channel code algorithm. I'm not changing the algorithm at all. I'm just keeping it the same, keeping this line trace static, but adding one variation and one variable to that static algorithm. This variation. Here you go. Hide and smoke. Full auto. Stop firing. And smoke trail. Smoke trail matte. And there you go. I hope that this was very informative for you. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for watching my videos. Have a very safe day. And hope you have a wonderful day. All right. Have a good one.